Today we're here to talk about the Bay Area Multifamily Building Enhancements Rebate and Technical Assistance Program. We'll begin with welcome and introductions, just describe who we are, where the money is coming from, those kinds of things. And then I'll talk about the Bay Area Multifamily Building Enhancements offering, just do an overview and talk about how you can participate. And then I'm going to hand it over to John, who's going to give you more details about what an upgrade looks like, give you some examples, and hopefully get you excited about making considerations for your own properties. And then at the end, we'll have several other multifamily incentives and other programs that you might want to take advantage of, whether it's in combination with this particular program or if it's this program referring you to those other programs. So we, like Mike said, we'll have a lot of time for Q&A at the end, hopefully, so we'll go through this pretty quickly, try to get it in within an hour, and reserve about half an hour for questions. Who's heard of Energy Upgrade California? Couple of people, that's great. So it's a statewide initiative. The state has very ambitious energy efficiency goals, both for new construction, so new homes and new buildings that are built, but also for existing buildings. So this Energy Upgrade California program is for the existing building stock. They're trying to get existing buildings to save, 10, 20, 40% of its current energy usage. So both for homes and for commercial buildings and multifamily also. And the way that the state and other local agencies that are supporting the state's mission are getting there is currently through rebates, technical assistance, and other types of services to support building owners and homeowners make those upgrades. It's a collaboration between utilities, state and local governments. And so here in the Bay Area, the Bay Area Regional Energy Network is the entity administering Bay Area-wide programs. It's a collaboration of the 9 counties, the 9 local governments in the area, and you can see on the PowerPoint what those 9 counties are if you had any questions about what's included. We have several different programs. We have a single-family program, which I have some brochures about, but won't talk about today. Today we're talking about the multifamily program, which is for 5 or more attached dwelling unit buildings. And in the region, the multifamily program is led by Stop Waste, which is why I'm here talking to you today. And one of the components of the program is free energy consulting, and Association for Energy Affordability is the consultant that we hire to give you the services. So that's why AEA will be here to kind of give you a flavor of the kind of work that they do for you. Just an overview of what the Bay Area Multifamily Building Enhancements has to offer you is cash rebates, free energy consulting, and potentially low-interest financing to cover the remainder of the cost of the project. You may have experienced PG&E rebates that were kind of just one-off, get $50 for a refrigerator kind of rebate, or you may have also had them come in and directly install something in your units or your home. Those programs still exist, and I'll be touching on them at the end, but this program is kind of redesigned to really be customized to your particular property. It's customized to the multifamily sector in that it's flexible. You can have in-unit work done, you can have common area central systems, and create really a customized package for your particular building. We know that all multifamily buildings are unique, so not one size fits all. We also allow you to use your own contractors. So again, building on that flexibility, we know that you have relationships with contractors already. We want you to be able to use someone you trust. If you do some of the work and create a package that works under this program, the rebate that you would get is $750 per dwelling unit. So that's all dwelling units within your building. If you have a 10-unit building, that's $750 times 10, $7,500. So it's really easy to figure out what you're going to get going into the program. So as you're going through and saying, okay, well, this is the package I'm looking at, costing that out and then comparing it to the rebate, you can make a really educated decision about whether that makes financial sense for you. Excuse me. So getting to deciding what that package looks like, that's where the free energy consulting comes in. They're there to help you do some analysis about your building's energy usage and give you a free site visit to look at what are the potential opportunities. They'll talk to you about your own interests, some things that you may be already planning, and make a scope that works for you. They're also serving as a one-stop shop to connect to other programs. So if this one doesn't work, or if this and another program can work together, they can facilitate that and just direct you in the right direction. The low-interest financing is coming online next year. If you have, if you can get a loan from your mortgage holder or somebody, a financial institution, and they are willing to participate with us, we will supply half of the capital for free, basically, which basically brings down your interest rate by half. So this is something that we're starting off next year. So if you're interested and you want to take out a loan with a lender and they want to participate, we'd be happy to talk to them about it. So the basic eligibility criteria is pretty simple. 5 or more attached dwelling units. If you have property with 1 to 4 unit buildings, like you have a couple duplexes or fourplexes on a property, that's more appropriate for the single family program, and I'd be happy to talk to you about that offline. We also have some brochures, like I said. So this program is for 5 or more attached dwelling units in a building. It has to be located in the 9-county Bay Area. Again, there's the map for you. And it has to receive PG&E service for electricity or natural gas. I think in most cases here in Contra Costa, you're going to be fine. The scope that you have to get put together to be qualified for the rebate must meet 2 criteria. 1, it has to save 10% of your whole building's energy usage, and that's figured out using engineering, modeling, building simulation software, and John from AEA can tell you more about that. And it also has to include 2 or more measures. So these have to be 2 distinct measures. So you'd have to do windows and a water heater replacement, for example, or insulation and appliances. So it has to be a couple of different measures or more. And then finally, the pool is limited to 5,000 units for the whole region. And so far, this program has been very popular. So there's a good chance that we'll quickly exceed that number, in which case we'll try to see if we can expand it and serve everybody that's interested. But right now, yeah, we are getting a lot of interest. So if you have a project that is kind of ready to go, you're ready to do something next month, make sure to tell us that so that we can get you kind of higher up in the queue. So I'm going to turn it over to John in a second, but just to give an overview of what the process looks like. It's 5 simple steps. First, you enroll online, or we have paper forms here that you can fill out right away. Then you get the free energy consulting services, and John will go more step by step into what that entails. Then you reserve your rebate, and you'll typically have about 6 months for the rebate reservation and that amount of time to do your installments. So then the 4th step is to install your enhancements using your licensed contractors. And the final step is to go ahead and claim your rebate after everything has kind of been reviewed and signed off on by AEA. So I think with that, I'm going to happily pass it over to John and let him talk to you about the details about what an upgrade looks like. And he's really the energy efficiency expert here, so feel free to pick his brain afterwards about your specific project too.
Okay, thanks, Mia. So I'm just going to go through, just briefly talk a little bit about AEA, give you an idea about what our nonprofit organization does, and then we can go into some details about what energy retrofit might look like on a building, and then some more details about how that applies specifically to this program. So AEA is a not-for-profit organization. We're a technical services organization. We have an office in New York, one in Chicago, and then one here in the Bay Area located in Emeryville. We have about 130 employees, and we work with a sort of a broad base of different folks, including utilities, directly with sort of running programs, and directly with building owners, as well as working sort of on a national level with like the Department of Energy and HUD and other sort of agencies. It's just sort of a breakdown of our different lines of business just described. All right, so what does an energy upgrade look like in a building? These are just going to be some details here on what you guys might expect if you were to go through an energy upgrade process. So if you're trying to address something in the property that is a system that you know, maybe it's a system that you pay for, or it's directed, attached to a utility bill that you pay for, you can expect to save money on your own utility bills, or maybe on your operations and maintenance costs. In the flip side, if you're working in the unit and maybe your tenants pay their own utility bills, then you have a great opportunity to sort of upgrade those units, improve tenant satisfaction, reduce tenant turnover. And a lot of this can come through both comfort improvements for your tenants as well as utility savings for the tenants. Another sort of added value is that you're going to potentially increase the property value by upgrading your building, have an opportunity to modernize some of those features in your building, and all the while you're doing this, you'll have the opportunity to do it while accessing rebates and financing to sort of lower that first cost. And what do enhancements look like? They can be improvements directed towards your heating, ventilation, air conditioning systems in the building, the systems that heat the domestic hot water enclosure, so the envelope of the building, the insulation, windows, lighting systems in the building, appliances, so refrigerators, things that might be in tenant units, might be in the common areas. If you guys have pools, does anybody here have a pool at their building? Okay, about 50% or more, 60% of the folks have pools. And then there are other enhancements that are not directly incentivized by this program, but we can sort of speak to this as you're going through and sort of thinking through what you want to do in your building. And those would be enhancements that address water usage in your building, which is a pretty significant cost these days. Renewable energy systems, which is incentivized through another program, and we can help direct you to those programs. And then sort of general green building upgrades. So if you're interested in things like indoor air quality and durability of the building, we can help speak to those details as well. So I'm just going to go through a few images, before and after images of specific targeted upgrades to show you what those might look like. So this is a shot of a roof insulation project before and after. So in the left, you're seeing looking down into an uninsulated attic in the top picture. And then the lower picture is sort of a marginally insulated attic. It's got some fiberglass bats. It's got some blown fiberglass, and it's sort of insulated in some areas and not insulated in others. Whereas on the image on the right, it's actually a different attic, but we're seeing a nice even level of blown insulation that's fully covering all of those voids and reducing, the heat loss or the heat gain into that space. Crawl space, showing the underside of the floor of a multifamily building, and the slide on the left is just showing that it's a fully uninsulated floor, and on the right they've gone through and they've insulated that floor with formaldehyde-free fiberglass bats. Another project, this is an uninsulated wall that was exposed on a project. Looks like it's a 50s era vintage building, and they were able to, during this process, go through and insulate those uninsulated walls when they were gutting this unit. It's a sample lighting project showing just two locations before and after. One is in a tenant unit that had a sort of an old vanity fixture in their bathroom that was a less efficient older style fluorescent fixture that was upgraded to a more efficient, sort of better light quality vanity fixture. And then on the outside of the building is showing actually a light above a sidewalk. So you're sort of looking up on the side of the building here. And that light, for a couple of reasons, isn't quite as energy efficient as the new fixture on the right. And that is, one, it's a less efficient bulb that they were using, so less efficient fixture to begin with, but it's also sort of pushing the light out across the street in this situation. So it's spending about half of its energy just illuminating the next door neighbor and the street, and maybe only about 20 or 30% illuminating the sidewalk, which is the intention of the fixture being located there. And the new fixture on the right is an LED fixture. It could have been a fluorescent fixture, and that fixture is directing all of the light down on the sidewalk right where it's needed. So we're able to reduce quite a bit of the energy needed just by directing the light right where it needed to go. And the up benefit of doing that is also that you're not shining the light in the neighbor's windows. So that was a lighting upgrade. This is a shot of a boiler room, and I think it's a 20-unit multifamily building in the North Bay. And what you're seeing on the left-hand side is a small but high output older boiler on the bottom left picture, and an old original storage tank, domestic hot water storage tank behind it that had some insulation but was sort of marginally insulated. The image above that on the left is showing that sort of blue tank is also a domestic hot water tank in the same complex that had a little bit of insulation. I was actually sort of wearing the insulation like a shawl instead of like a jacket, and wasn't really doing anything. So it's basically an uninsulated storage tank in this person's complex. The upgrades were sort of targeted. The storage tank in the upper picture was connected to a relatively new boiler that was relatively efficient and was relatively new. And so it didn't really make sense to sort of fully replace that system. So the goal for that project was really just to insulate that tank properly. And so you can see in the upper right-hand picture, the tank has been insulated properly, reducing the heat loss significantly from that tank. Whereas the bottom image, the old boiler, the old storage tank had really sort of gotten close to the end of its useful life, and so presented an opportunity to sort of replace that whole system. So what you're seeing in the bottom image is a new storage tank, a new high efficiency condensing hot water boiler. Just to compare the efficiencies, the boiler before was probably operating in the mid to high 70% efficient range, and the tank maybe had like an equivalent of, you've heard of R values before, but equivalent of maybe like an inch of insulation. And the new boiler is operating at 95% efficiencies, and the storage tank had the equivalent of what you might think of as like 4 inches of insulation. So significantly more efficient. And their bills have gone down quite a bit. We've been able to track that. You're seeing in the upper left-hand image some uninsulated copper pipes that were under the building in that same complex. And it was a hard and dirty job, but they were circulating hot water through that building all the time. And so the improvement was really just to go through and insulate all those hot water pipes under the house to reduce the heat loss from those pipes. We're looking at a circulation pump for a domestic hot water system that was an old decoupled pump that required the maintenance supervisor go by and oil that pump on a semi-regular basis. It ran constantly regardless of whether or not the water in the pipes were hot, and the opportunity to upgrade it was there. And so the building owner upgraded that pump with what they call a demand controlled pump, or sort of a smart pump that doesn't require any maintenance, which is a benefit, but it also watches return temperatures in the building from that line and usage in the building, and sort of only runs as needed to maintain hot water delivery in the building. So significantly reducing their hot water heating costs by not over circulating that building. Okay, so those are just some examples just to get you thinking about what an energy upgrade might look like for a specific item. I want to go through now and just outline what the consulting services look like if you were to go through the program, and what that process looks like. And then at the end, I have an example, sort of case study of a project that was from Martinez, actually, that we could go through that at the end. So if you guys are okay, this is sort of going to outline, I think, a lot about how it actually worked to go through the program. And then after I go through that, I think we can ask some questions then and clarify anything that's still outstanding. Okay, so to start, Mia had sort of talked about this a little bit. Once Stop Waste received your interest form and they can sort of vet that you have a potential project or that you're really sort of interested, committed, and moving forward with the program. They will forward your initial information over to us, where we will work with you to collect some basic information on your project. Try and get an idea of what you're interested in, maybe what you're already planning to do, and get more information about the specific details of your building. Then at that point, if for some reason after you learn a little bit more about the program, it appears as though maybe it's not, this program isn't exactly correct for you, we can help direct you to different programs, as Mia mentioned earlier. Assuming, though, that it seems like you are a good fit for the program, what we'll initially do is take that information that we've gathered from you and using some engineering spreadsheets and software tool, we'll do a sort of a desktop analysis of the modeled energy usage of your building. This is according to a software model. We're not looking specifically at your utility bills. We're just trying to get an idea of how much energy does the software model sort of calculate your building to use. And then we'll run through in that same software model some improvements to the building based on the conversation we've had with you. So you had mentioned windows earlier. So we might say, okay, you're interested in replacing your windows. So if we change windows out in the software program, how is that affecting the model and how much energy improvement is that giving you? Once we do that, before we head out to the site, what we'll do is we'll sort of go through and run enough measures through that program that you're interested in, that we think might be viable, to determine what a package of improvements might look like for your building. And the goal is to try and get 10% energy savings to qualify you for the program. So if we can find out that, replacing windows, doing some appliances, and maybe addressing some hot water heating systems, if those are things you're interested in, got you above that 10% threshold, and you still feel interested in the program and you think that you can commit to a scope that might look like that, then we'll come out to your building and we'll do a walkthrough energy audit to both verify the existing conditions so we can make sure that our energy model is correct, but also to look for other opportunities that maybe you didn't know about or maybe we couldn't think of since we were just talking over the phone. So what will come out of that is additional recommendations that we will put together along with details that you're interested in a report. So once we finish our site visit, we'll go back and we'll work on developing a report which will outline those recommendations that we found and the details that you're interested in. We'll revise the energy model based on the site-specific details, and we will work with you to sort of find a scope of work, a final scope of work that you're interested in doing on your building. So we might find, a handful of things that you're maybe weren't planning to do on the building, and it's been my understanding, just working various projects that, some of those are no-brainer things that you want to include, and some of them are usually tabled for doing at a later date. But we still want to give you those recommendations to consider, even if it wasn't maybe the original reason you came into the program. So we're trying to give you information about your building. Once we arrive at a final scope of work with you, something that you're going to commit to do, then we will make sure we'll update the energy model accordingly, and we will issue a rebate reservation form that you agree to, saying that you will do, measure, windows, appliances, and water heating equipment. At that point, your reservation would be reserved. Okay, and there are other ways that we can help during your project as well. We can help you during the procurement stage. So if you want to get more detailed information beyond sort of the minimum energy performance requirements that need to be met for the measure that you've selected for the program, we can help provide performance specifications, the basic performance specifications for some equipment, if you're interested in doing that. And we can also try and help work with you to find a qualified contractor to do the work. We will also come out either at 50 or 100%, depending on what type of work scope you choose during construction to verify that the work is being installed properly. And we will also at that point be performing a combustion safety test out on combustion appliances to make sure that those are still working properly and haven't been affected by your scope of work. And we'll be your single point of contact. So after you talk with stopwaste.org, as soon as you move over to AEA, you'll have one person that's your point of contact until the end of the project. It'll give you an idea of what some different sample upgrade scopes look like to get to 10%, and then we can take questions. So these are just a few sample projects to get you an idea of what it takes to get to 10%. And again, you don't have to do these combinations specifically. These are really flexible and tailored to what you want to do and what we've seen out on site. So this project is a garden style 8-unit building from the 60s, and they insulated their walls, replaced their older refrigerators, and upgraded their water heater, and that was able to get them to a 13% improvement, so that qualified them for the project. This theoretical larger garden style project is a 3-story 80s vintage. They replaced their windows and their central hot water heating plant, and they were able to get to a 12% improvement. So you can see that these are, you're typically going after, something that's semi-major in the building. You're either going after, a significant component of the envelope or the hot water heating system, or in this next case, the heating system and the hot water heating system. So this is a more modern high-rise building that had central heating and central hot water. Replacing both of their hot water and heating boilers got them to the 12% threshold. This is really tailored to what you want to do. So this slide just illustrates that for the same 40-unit 1960 building, there might be multiple different packages of improvements that you could undertake to get to the 12% improvement based on what you're interested in doing. So this building, theoretical building, had central hot water, in-unit furnaces, no insulation, old single pane windows, old appliances, and inefficient lighting. So everything's on the table, right? You could go after a lot of those different items. And then package 1, maybe the opportunity, maybe you're more interested in going after the central hot water heating plant, roof insulation, and duct sealing, and that would get you to 12% improvement. And for a 40-unit building, the rebate would be $30,000. And pathway 2, maybe you're more interested in the furnaces because maybe they were, something that you wanted to address first. So you could go after the furnaces, upgrade the windows, upgrade your lighting, and maybe that might get you only to 10%, but that would still qualify you for the same rebate amount. So let me just go through this case study, which is really, it's like 3 slides. We'll take questions, and then we'll take a break. So this is a Martinez multifamily building that just completed, came through this program early on, right when it started. So it's a 12-unit property, and they received a $9,000 rebate. Work scope we identified, this is sort of what came out of the original audit, which you can look at after the presentation, was that there's an opportunity to insulate the attic, the floors, insulate the hot water piping in the building, install low-flow shower heads and faucet aerators, replace incandescent bulbs or fixtures with fluorescent bulbs or fluorescent fixtures, and then to fix some issues with their gas stoves. And that whole package was getting them to 27%. Most of the light fixtures in the building were incandescent fixtures, both what tenants paid for and what the owner paid for. Each unit had its own hot water heater, and most of those hot water heaters, you can see the pipes are sort of uninsulated there. That was where the pipe insulation recommendation, that was one of the pipe insulation recommendations. And then the shower heads in the building were all, met the federal standard of 2.5 gallons per minute, but there's an opportunity there to drop that a little bit lower and save on hot water heating costs and also on water costs. this building and with an uninsulated attic space you can see on the upper image, and an uninsulated crawl space. And the package that they ended up choosing was to insulate the attic and insulate the floor. So those are the two measures that they chose. And you can see the attic on the right is insulated to over R38 with cellulose. Okay, now does anybody have any questions, sir? The question was talking about tankless water heaters. Yeah, so tankless water heaters, if they make sense for your property and you're interested in installing a tankless water heater, we can give you credit for doing that. Depends on the situation and the setup in the building. If you have a central hot water heating system, a tankless water heater doesn't usually make sense. But yeah, so sort of a 2-point comment question was tankless water heaters costing more money because of the gas line upsizing, but also is the rebate fixed at $750? And yeah, the rebate's fixed at $750 per unit. So that's not going to... That's for the whole building. So it's $750 per unit. So, in the 10-unit building example, you'd get $7,500. And a point on that is I have had some projects that couldn't address every single unit in their building where in-unit work was concerned. You can still get to that 10% threshold of savings by only addressing 8 units in a more comprehensive manner. You'd still get the rebate for all 10 units in your building. Yeah, it's a whole building basis. We're not looking at unit by unit. We're looking at the whole building energy usage. If you've saved 10% by going nuts on 2 of 10 units, then you'll qualify for the rebate. The question is the total energy use baseline that we're looking at both the tenant energy usage and the owner energy usage? And yes, it's both combined. The question is just clarifying how we help identify the scope of work at the building. And yeah, we will come out and we'll look at the opportunities in the building that we see, and we'll write those up, but we'll also work with you to, if you have something that you're specifically interested in, we'll include that in the package of measures as well. And ultimately, you're going to be, we'll try and help you make good decisions about what you include in your package, but ultimately it's up to you to choose which measures you want to choose on your project, as long as they still get you to the 10%. Did that answer the question? Yeah, okay, sir. So the question was clarifying that you don't have to necessarily work in every single unit in order to capture the rebate of $750 per unit. And the one clarifying note is there is a program rule that does require that something that you're doing on the project help an end use of an apartment in some way. So that could be affecting the domestic hot water system that apartments use, or insulating the attic that relates to the apartments. Right. But yeah, exactly. That as long as you have something there that's going to affect that unit, then you'll meet the. Is that pretty clear?
Yeah. So what John is talking about is this is a multifamily program. It's mostly a residential end use type of program. We don't want to just do common areas. So if you're doing things like insulation that affects the in-unit energy usage, that can count. I want to just make sure that it's clear that the 10% is on a whole building basis. So you're going to get an energy model of how much energy consumption is your baseline. It's not based on your utility bill. I heard somebody say costs, utility costs. It is the energy consumption of the in-unit and the common area. So for all the meters, the energy consumption. And then that's done using the modeling software. And 10% has to be shaved off of that total, not just per unit by unit. So you have 10 units plus common areas, that total energy consumption needs to drop by 10%. So however you get there, as long as you're, of course, addressing some of the residential usage, which you probably will have to get the 10%, then you would qualify. So hopefully, I don't know if I made that less clear or more clear, but.
The other question I think I hear a lot too is on the 10% savings, is that savings that we are verifying on utility bills? And the answer is no, we're not verifying your utility costs, and we're not verifying a 10% reduction. We're just using the energy model as a tool to do to verify that the predicted energy savings is going to be 10%. And as long as that passes muster with the energy model, then that will qualify you. Okay, good question. The question was, does participation in this program exclude participation in other programs now or down the road? And the answer is that you can participate in other programs now, but you can do that as long as that other program isn't taking credit for savings of work that that we're claiming basically for this program. So both programs can't take credit for the same work that you're doing. You can leverage other programs and go after additional measures, but if you installed attic insulation and we took credit for that, and another program would give you, a rebate for attic insulation, you couldn't take that. And there's basically we have a cooperation with other programs to verify that that's also not happening on.
And that's specific to ratepayer funded programs, which are like PG&E's programs. If you have another, like a low tax credit financing or something like that, that can be layered directly.
If you have a water department that's not using ratepayer funds off the utility bills, then you can leverage like a water program as well.
To reiterate the 5 simple steps: enroll online or in person here, talk to AEA, reserve your rebate, install enhancements, and claim your rebate. 5 simple steps. During the second step, the free consulting, you might be directed to other programs, which is what I'm going to quickly go over now. The other programs that are available, I'm going to talk about 3 from PG&E. One is a whole building rebate. It's kind of similar to what we're doing now, what we're talking about in the Bay Area multifamily building enhancements, but it's a more robust audit. You have to pay for somebody to come out and do the audit, and you get a little bit of an incentive for that. You get an assessment a rebate to offset that. But if you're doing something like a gut rehab, or you think you're going to save 40% of your energy, this might be a better program for you. But it's more intensive in terms of the process, but you can get a better rebate. If you look on the table there, if you're saving something like 40%, you would get twice as much of a rebate as you would through the Bay Area multifamily building enhancements. But this program isn't launching fully until sometime next year. So timing-wise, it may be better to go through the $750 per unit rebate program. So just an option for you, and we can kind of guide you through making that decision of which one is better. Another one is the standard rebate program that you've probably already heard of, the refrigerators or dishwashers, different appliances, water heaters, those kinds of things can get an individual rebate for individual appliance units, and that is at pge.com/multifamily. That program is ongoing. One thing I'll mention is that windows will no longer be rebated under this program after this year. So if you're thinking of doing windows only and you don't want to go through our program, then you want to look this up pretty quickly. And the third program is for low-income tenants, or whoever's living in the unit has to meet certain income qualifications, and those are listed here in this table. If your tenants do meet those qualifications, then you can get no-cost improvements done in those units. So things like CFLs, some of the weather stripping, the caulking, shower heads, minor home repairs, some appliances like furnaces, refrigerators, and water heaters. Those could come at no cost to you or the tenant, and they would come in and directly install those measures if your tenant meets that qualification. There are 2 other programs, Smart Lights and Smart Solar, that are offered here in Contra Costa County and in Alameda County. If you have commercial meters for your common areas, you can have some common area lighting audit done. That's a little bit more specific. Of course, AEA will go through your common area lighting as part of the overall audit process. But if you don't go through a program, or if you want something done very specific to common area lighting, this program may be suited for you. It's a free lighting energy efficiency assessment. You can have instant rebates taken off of the cost of the lighting upgrade. And they have negotiated some volume pricing with contractors. So it's just a good way to get common area lighting upgrades done. And the contact information is on the slide there. Smart Solar is also offered through the same people that are doing the smart lights, and it's independent advising on your solar potential of your property. As John said, solar is not covered in the Bay Area multifamily building enhancements under the rebate. AEA can give you some basic advice about solar considerations for your property, solar electric or solar thermal for water heating. But this program is specifically designed to talk to you about solar on your property. And they basically are a free resource to give you objective analysis. They're not solar contractors that want to sell you the system, so they can kind of give you some advice about right sizing for your property. And contact information is there too. And the solar rebate that John had mentioned is the California Solar Initiative, and the website is gosolarcalifornia.ca.gov, also on the slide there. So that wraps up the energy efficiency rebates and incentives that we can direct you to through this program. So that's my part. I think I won't break for questions. We can answer questions offline if you have any questions specific to those programs. But I want to turn it over now to Jonah Itis from NRG, who's going to talk to you about electric vehicle charging infrastructure.
Thank you. I'm with NRG. EVgo, we're a subsidiary of NRG, which is a Fortune 300 company based out of New Jersey. I'm going to talk to you a little bit today about funding that we have available for infrastructure upgrades to get your building ready for electric vehicle charging stations. So how many people have a sign like this on the front of their building? Probably you don't, because there's 650,000 hybrids on the road in California. And this year, they represented 7% of the cars that were sold in California. 6 out of 10 hybrids sold in all of America are sold in California. Now, that's relevant because if you look at this chart, this is the historical uptick of adoption of electric vehicles versus hybrids in their first few years on the road. It's double, the electric vehicle purchasing is actually double where hybrids were at this point 2 years in. If you look at California, they're already up to 2%. So nationwide, it took 4.5 years to reach for hybrids to reach where we are now with electric vehicles in a little under 3 years on the road. And in California, 2% of the cars on the road are electric vehicles. So what that means is in a couple years, we are going to have, I don't think it's going to continue at double the rate, but it's likely that we might be seeing 7% of the cars on the road being electric vehicles. So that means 600,000 customers on the road looking for a charging solution. In California, there's also an executive order to have 1.5 million cars, electric vehicles on the road by 2025. So what does that mean for you guys? That means right now, if you're an electric vehicle driver, there's a 91% chance that you're charging at your single family home. Very, very few solutions right now, very few options in multifamily. This is a big concern for the state of California, and they're putting a lot of money behind increasing the availability of chargers for in multifamily. Just a little overview of the EV industry real quick. By next year, there's going to be about 30 electric vehicle models on the road. Some of them are as cheap as $18,000. There's also a $2,500 rebate from the state of California and a $7,500 rebate from the federal government, which means you can buy an EV for sometimes as low as $8,000. On the other end of the spectrum, we have the Tesla that I'm sure a lot of people have seen. This, people have called this the best car ever made. It is an unbelievable vehicle. It is definitely very expensive, but I'm sure some of you have higher end properties and you wouldn't want a Tesla driver to show up at your door, ask if they could rent from you, and you say, I don't have a solution for you. This is how Tesla's competitors are responding. In 2014, we're going to see a lot of the major premium brands come out with electric vehicles. So I want to talk a little bit about the California agreement. NRG has an agreement with the state of California to invest $100 million in electric vehicle infrastructure. About half of that is going to what we call Freedom Stations. That's kind of the gas station version of an electric vehicle charging station. You can pull your car up to one of the Freedom Stations and charge your car in about 20 minutes. Pay by credit card or with an RFID reader that we supply to you. The rest of the money is broken up into a few segments. The one that's most important for you is the $40 million that are going towards make-ready infrastructure. The make-ready infrastructure, what we're really focusing on is the electrical upgrades that are required for your building to allow for chargers to actually be hung. a lot of the investment is in panel upgrades, running conduit, wiring, junction boxes. That can be very expensive. So what we provide is up to $20,000 in matching infrastructure investment towards your building. We don't actually do that work. We contract out with a third-party electrician. We can use your electricians if you prefer. They would have to go through our training, but basically we provide the plans. We work with the electricians. We can have multiple bids on the work if you want, because there is a matching component to that. So the match can be anywhere from a 1-to-1, or if you're depending on what type of clients you have, especially if you have lower income buildings, we can actually provide a higher percentage match, but it is capped out at $20,000 per building. Now, a make-ready space means that if you kind of think about a gas station, imagine we're building the entire gas station all the way up to the pump, but we put in everything but the actual hose. Okay? And the reason for that is that charger is a separate cost. You guys never have to bear that. Those chargers don't ever come out of your pocket. What happens is when a driver is ready, say we come to your building and we put in electrical infrastructure for 10 spaces, right? There's not actually going to be chargers there until a driver comes in, rents an apartment and says, I want to charge my car here. They'll call us up and they'll actually lease that equipment from us. So they'll pay us $39.95 a month plus a variable rate for electricity, which goes back to you guys, goes back to the building. So the building is never paying for their customers' electricity. But that $39.95 effectively covers any service and maintenance on their equipment or the infrastructure. It covers the cost of the charger. And there's no early termination fee for them. So if they decide if they move, if they decide they don't want to charge anymore, they don't need it, maybe they're charging at work, maybe they're charging just on the road, we can come in and take that out. Once your site is made ready and a driver shows up, it takes us 5 days to come out and hang a charger. So the putting in the infrastructure is really the time-consuming, expensive part of electric vehicle charging. So we call it REV, which is ready for EV. So we're going to do the design, permitting, hardware, construction services, station maintenance, electrical power is covered obviously by the driver. We have 24-hour support, and we also do co-marketing. So we have marketing materials that you guys can use to market your building as ready for EV. You guys, all you have to provide is parking spaces. Now, when we make those 10 spaces or however many you determine, we make them ready for EV, and you don't have any drivers, those spaces are still available for anybody to park in, however you do your parking. But once a driver comes in and says, I want to get electric vehicle charging, that driver is going to have that dedicated space. So there are a lot of different ways that buildings do their parking. This can be a challenge for people. We have a lot of different methods that we've worked with customers, so that's a further conversation. But understand that when a driver signs up, they are going to have a dedicated space, and that's really the only way that you guys can access the funding on this. And then the electric make-ready retrofit, that's subsidized by the California Settlement Funds. This is my contact information. I do have business cards and collateral on the program if you have any other questions.